Hello everyone, I hope you're all still well. This is the second video I've done today. This is just about coursework. Obviously I've stated some work earlier on today about Russia which you need to be cracking on with, but don't forget the coursework which you also need to be getting on with. And in fact, because you all can't go out and stuff now, you've got plenty of time to be getting on with it. Essentially, by the end of next week, what you need to have done is sent to me the form which you had, which I'll send out on an email, outlining what your proposed question is, what resources which you can access. There's no point putting books on there which you know you can't access because you don't have the money to buy them. So what books you can access, and what are the main kind of debates around your question. In other words, is it going to be viable in terms of can you get historians who disagree with each other? So, for example, say you do one about the rise of Hitler. Well, there's debates about was it down to Hitler, was it down to the President of the Weimar Republic, was it down to this or was it down to that? So make sure you do that. I'll also send out to you all the questions which OCR have done and what our students have done in the past, which have been quite successful as a basis. So that all needs doing for next week, and you need to start on your reading as well. As I said before, a little bit flippantly, but you do have plenty of time now to be getting on with this early reading. And if you get the early reading done, get the access to history books or whatever done, it should then allow you to make sure that question is spot on and right, so you can actually do a good essay out of it. What you don't want to do is not done a great deal and then find by September when you come back to college that actually you can't do the question because there isn't these different views or whatever, or you can't access half the stuff. So you need to make sure you get all that stuff sorted now, which means then if you do have to change the question or you do have to make some change, it's done kind of really before May, which means you can then just crack on and get on with it and get most of the heavy work done for that coursework before September. So over the next 2 weeks, you need to fill in the form, which I'll send out. Make sure that your question is viable. I suggest you should have gone to the library before everything closed down and got a lot of books out from the college library. Another good source for stuff is Google Books. If you type in Google Books, not every book's on there, but there's a number of books on there which have kind of been scanned, or parts of books have been scanned. It's worth looking on there. So last night, for example, I had a quick jump onto it. I had a look. I just typed in access to history, and I clicked on one of them, and most of the book was actually there. So again, the access to history are quite good first steps, and they also suggest other historians. So if you can click onto access to history and begin to read through whatever area it is, that should be a good start for you. So again, that needs to be started now and be getting on with now. So by the end of next week, you need to prove to me what your question is, what are the kind of discussions and debates around that question area, and what resources can you definitely access. Because then me and Liz then need to look over them, perhaps make any suggested question changes. It might just be wording here and there, or we might say no to a question if you haven't kind of convinced us that the resources are there for it. So watch out for the email I'll send out very shortly. Also, when you're doing your reading for the coursework, you're looking out for historians' views. So say for example you do about so we did on the Tudors, for example, you see what David Starkey's view is about something, you need to write, page 17, Starkey says, quote, I don't know, Henry VIII is a gorgeous man and I love him to bits and he was brilliant, unquote. Okay, and then write down from your reading what evidence does David Starkey have for that. He did this, he did this, he did this. So you need to, for everyone that you read, you need to put the title of the book, the author, and then the page numbers down the side as to where the information you're having. So you say you're reading page 47 and there's a nice quote or it mentions some evidence which supports something, just write the side P47. It then just means when you're doing your footnotes, you can do it dead easy as to where everything is. Make sure you look out for historians' views. And in fact, what I would do is say you've read a chapter from a book towards your question, just think, right, what is the view of the historian in this chapter? And then in green or whatever, just write down, Hickling argues, blah, 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 blah. So basically doing like a little summary, basically. But again, it'll just help you with the arguments and making sure you get these historians' views. You might also want to highlight when you do your reading, what's the primary evidence that's being used. Because remember, for your coursework, you need to use primary sources. And you need to treat them like you've done the primary sources for the Tudors. So you need to be looking out for primary sources that have been used in the essay or the book. Again, it doesn't need to be great big thick dusty tomes. Let's say Davy Starkey is used, and then he says, for example, Thomas Cromwell said, quote, blah 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 blah, unquote, in a letter he wrote to the French ambassador. Well, that bit in the quote which he wrote to the French ambassador, that would be a primary source, and then you can do the evaluation of that primary source. So keep an eye out for those, and then you can be thinking about its usefulness and stuff. But as a first thing, keep an eye out for those and write down where they are in these books and perhaps quote them, whatever, because then you can always come back to them, can't you? Okay, any questions on that, then again, get back to me and I'll send an email out. Probably when I've done this YouTube. In fact, by the time this processes, I'll put it on the email with the forms and other bits and bobs on, so you've got all those. Okay.